Hello, I'm Soika and welcome back to another video in another airport. Today I'm in Kansai International Airport. It is Osaka Airport in Japan basically, and I'm here because I wanted to talk about something which comes up a lot whenever I do travel videos. As you all know, I came to Japan for the first time. It's been a really delightful experience, but a lot of people raise the question of how do you afford to travel? How can you travel all the time? Because whenever I look, it's crazy expensive. And this is one of those cases where the flight home, because I only had a one-way flight here, that you might have seen the video, but the flight home was going to cost £2,000 or £3,000, about $3,000 to $4,000 if I booked a direct flight on the day I wanted to fly, which is absurdly high rate. And a lot of people look at that and say, yeah, you must be crazy rich to afford thousands of dollars for the one flight or whatever. But that's not actually how this goes at all. Whenever you see something like that and you're like, oh, there's no way around it, both of them are charging that price, there are some other ways around it. And today I have one of the most creative ways around a £3,000 economy ticket, and that is to do 6 stops instead of a direct flight. So yeah, this is the first time I've ever done something quite so crazy, but I've combined 3 separate flight routings for 6 separate stops to get me home from here in Japan, in Osaka Airport, to get me home from here in Japan to where I want to be, which is of course London. So it's going to be quite the delight. This is my first flight. It's about to take off. It's going to take me from obviously Osaka Airport to Hong Kong. It's going to cost a few thousand yen. I think it's like 7,000 yen, and like $70 roughly. And it's going to get me to Hong Kong, which is going to position me for my next couple of flights, which should, hopefully you'll see in this vlog, take me home for literally less than a third of the price I would otherwise be paying. And one of the best things is like, oh, a third of the price, that's pretty good. And you get to see 6 stops in Asia. I mean, if you see it as a positive, it's going to take a full day or so of travel. But the upside to all of that is, as well as all of that, it's also in business. It was a tiny upgrade to business from that other ticket. So 6 stops in business versus a long flight in economy for 3 times the price. I'll take that any day of the week, and let me show you what it looks like. So here I am in Kansai, about to take the first flight with Hong Kong Express to position me for where I want to be next, which is Hong Kong. And the reason I want to be in Hong Kong is because for a variety of reasons, they actually have cheaper flights than a lot of the rest of the world. There are no surcharges, for instance, and they're a very competitive country. They want people going through there, and because of this, there are a lot of cheap tickets going out of Hong Kong, and they also involve flying Cathay Pacific, which has always been, just on like the list of like airlines I'd like to fly. So I'm going to be flying Cathay Pacific on 2 separate tickets that kind of nest into each other, because flights from Hong Kong to London are wildly expensive, but flights from Sri Lanka to London aren't, and basically I'm flying from Hong Kong to Sri Lanka, then out from Sri Lanka back into London. So that's what we're going to do now. Let's go there right now. Well, I guess let's get on the plane. You get the point. And literally 5 seconds into the recording of that flight, as we're boarding and trying to record it, the flight attendant says this.
Thank you. One part of you just get the stop for that.
And long story short, there's no video of the flight as a result. And the flight was super weird for a bunch of reasons. They also were kind of like anal about the fact that like, oh, you have a phone on board? That's a bit of a dangerous item. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, make sure you turn on flight mode when you take off and land. It's like no phones for takeoff, landing, and a little bit afterwards, because, reading a offline page on your Android phone, that's a real security risk for us. Super strange on that. Also, I've never seen this in a budget carrier, and it's funny a little bit, and, I guess effective. They have obviously they sell food and drink on board if you want to buy it. But to convince you to buy it a little bit more on a 4-hour flight, they don't allow outside food and drink. It's a 4.5-hour flight from 2 p.m. to 6-something p.m. And what are you gonna do? Are you gonna starve, or are you gonna pay us money? You have to pick one of the two. And that was a little bit brutal for a budget airline. But yeah, anyway, the flight was whatever. It doesn't really matter. All it was a positioning flight, which is what I believe the flying community refers to as when you want to fly from somewhere to somewhere else for the sole purpose of getting a cheap flight deal from there. A lot of flight deals are priced with a single destination in mind. You can't buy a connecting flight because they know that, again, it's the way airlines route is kind of complex. So what I'm doing today is I'm taking a one-way flight from Hong Kong, a very cheap one-way business flight, one-way business class flight from Hong Kong to Colombo. It takes 2 separate stops along the way. It switches airline after Singapore, and it's a super strange routing to get to Colombo, but it's a very cheap way to get to Colombo, which is my final goal, to get a cheap one-way ticket to London, because one-way tickets are expensive. One-way tickets to London, extra expensive, but if we first go to Colombo, it gets a lot cheaper. So this sounds insane, this sounds ridiculous, it sounds almost like, just sounds like nothing's going to happen here, but here I am in Hong Kong, hoping that today's going to be great, because again, experiencing 3 separate airlines over the course of the next 24 hours, because I've got 4 kind of back-to-back-to-back flights, should be a little bit of fun. So let's see if it is, I guess. Okay, so it's 8 a.m. now. I have had a shower. I have had, some coffee. I've had a little bit of breakfast, and now I'm ready to actually get on the first of the many flights. Again, a little bit weird to go on so many flights and from the same place, but just for a little bit of a view, because I feel like it's one of the best views. There you go. Makes me just turn into a shadow man. So yeah, back on my first flight now. We'll let you know what it's like when I'm on board. There's so much cleaning going on this flight right now, and that's kind of an interesting thing I haven't necessarily seen before. However, the thing I just want to mention is they came over with a drink, for the hour wait, and interestingly enough to me, one of the drinks I've tried for the first time on board was Hong Kong milk tea. So, pro tip, give this a try. I hate tea, but I love the Hong Kong milk tea. So I have now landed in Bangkok, and that is flight 2 of the 6 Flight Madness home done and complete. It was a really nice flight actually, getting bed sleep on a 2-hour flight, one of the best ones. Just short haul, flight in general, amazing, really great flight. Made the whole thing go super fast, and I guess I'm going to enjoy the next one, I hope too. It's really weird because everyone's getting off the plane, maybe you can see them in the background. And I've never been on a situation where I've got to stay on the plane and everyone else is getting off. It's literally 10 people out of the entire capacity that are staying on, and everyone else is slowly getting off, which is, again, it's a weird thing. Never done anything like this before where you gotta do the one stop. It feels like something's gone wrong, at least in my head. But no, it's just a thing. Is it common where you live? Let me know if you perhaps have ever taken one of these stopping things, but it's not a stop, it's where you stay on the plane. It's it's weird. I haven't done it before. Let me know, and let's see what happens next. So I really like the landing into Singapore, which, by the way, I have now done. And this is flight 3 out of 6 done. I actually have a 4.5-hour gap between my next, flight and this one. I'm actually going to be switching to Sri Lankan Airlines, which is first time I'll be flying them. That's going to be exciting. I love flying out new airlines, especially. It's a weird experience to see what's going to go down. And basically what I'm going to be doing, because I have 4.5 hours, which is just a bit too long to spend in an airport. Even if you've got a nice lounge or whatever you get, it's still, it's a bit too much where you'd rather be in the city. But in most cities, it's 4.5, spend 2.5 in the city, 2 in the airport, and it's that's not going to work out for you. But with Singapore, you're literally 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes at most from the city, because the island, it takes about half an hour to cross anyway. So today, we're going to be going into a little bit of Singapore, then heading back to the airport for the Sri Lankan Airlines flight, which is in, just check out my thing with me, which is now going to be in 4.5 hours. So we're looking forward to having another couple of hours in Singapore. If you don't recall, when I went to Singapore this January, it is one of my favorite countries in the world, and I am super hyped to be back. Let's go. So there are so many things to love about Singapore, whether it's one of the best airports in the world, whether it's the fact that all transit is cheap, even taxis are cheap compared to other countries especially. Everything in Singapore is amazing, and you can love it. However, the one downside Singapore that you always forget you don't like is that it is 30-something degrees here, with pretty much the max humidity you can get. So high humidity, 30 degrees, it will melt me pretty quickly, but fortunately you don't have to stay outside too long. But yeah, that's the one downside to Singapore. It's English speaking, it's got one of the best airports and transport connectivity, it's tiny, and therefore you can go see it all. However, you might have the downside of this. It's a little already. I'm looking forward to this though. So just a quick little story, because I wanted to tell this, because I just thought it was a nice little bonus, because half the crew changed over at Bangkok, but one woman, I guess the head flight attendant, stayed on, and I guess she got to know me or whatever, and at the end she's just like, "Oh, Mr. Andrews, how long are you going to be staying in Singapore?" And I was like, "Oh, 4 hours or something, then I'm leaving." She's like, "Oh, after 2 flights already?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, and then where are you going after that?" "Oh, to Colombo." And it's like, "Wow, that's a lot of flights to get there, eh?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And then she's like, how long are you staying in Sri Lanka?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, just a couple of hours, then I'm flying out again." And she's like, "More? must be really expensive. Where are you going to?" "Hong Kong." And then she just didn't understand at that point. It was kind of funny in my opinion. But yeah, I just before I go into the city, I want to mention very briefly that the Singapore airport, Changi Airport, is actually one of my favorite airports in the world. And I really want to just make it takes every fiber of my being, not just go around and explain, look how great an airport is, but it's just stuff like this is everywhere. It's huge, and it's just filled with things to make you feel like you're not in an airport. There's a butterfly garden. There's a huge. It's one of the biggest screens in an airport, the second biggest movie screen in the world. There's all these ridiculous things. There's pools. If you like being entertained in an airport, I believe Singapore Changi's got you covered. Anyway, I'm going to spend a couple of hours doing something over in the city, and then I'll get back to you. So one of the things I decided to do while I was in Singapore, just as a quick little side trip, because I was kind of close anyway, is go to the very edge of the country. And this is one of those things where, given that I've been here a week, it almost seems weird I haven't done it. So for most people it'd be weird to come here at all, but to me it's fascinating. They're like, guess what? This is the edge of Singapore. Halfway through that big river size thing right there is obviously the division between Malaysia and Singapore. The landmass you can see in the background, not even a kilometer away, is actually Malaysia. It's really cool to me that you can just see into another country. If I could swim that far, which I definitely cannot, I'd be able to swim right into their country. But the reason that I just wanted to come here and mention it is because it's really cool to see something like this, because the natural geographic event, i.e. the river, if it weren't for this river, if somehow this river hadn't formed or had formed somewhere else, there would be no Singapore as we know it today. Singapore and Malaysia would not be separate countries. There'd be a whole bunch of ramifications on every single part of world history, but most importantly, like, a country wouldn't exist if it weren't for one of the natural borders. Natural borders and fortifications are one of the things that form the nation states we know today, and it seems so arbitrary but so interesting at the same time to me, and that's why I'm glad I came here for at least a minute just to tell you that I don't know. I think this is cool, but I know I'm like I'm in a minority like that. But yeah, just interesting. It's a beach. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd just be like a cliff's edge or something. But no, you can chill here at the beach on the Singapore-Malaysia border. They probably would not be happy if you did that, and I know I'm starting to get concerned that maybe I shouldn't be here. But yeah, I walked to the edge of Singapore, and I could probably walk to the other edge if I had another 8 hours, but I don't. So just a cool little thing for you. Just a quick fun fact on my way back, I want to quickly mention that the seasons in Singapore are basically non-existent. So this shocks me every time I'm here, and I know it shouldn't, but basically I came last time in January, pretty much the peak of winter. I'm here now in August, pretty much the peak of summer. Let me show you somewhere up here what the temperature looks like on average for both those months. Pretty much the same, right? Kind of odd like that. And if I show you also the daylight cycle, the number of sunlight minutes in a day, it's also pretty much the same. Because it's so close to the equator, basically there's no such thing as a season here, and that is shocking for us Singaporeans when they go overseas. But it's also shocking when you come over here that, like, it's exactly how I left it. So, I've been gone for like a solid 7 months now, I want to say, and yeah, I cannot tell the difference. It might actually, it seems a little bit colder right now, just because I've been to Japan, which was 34 or 35, so it's a little bit of a cool down to go down to 30 degrees, a lowly 28 today, even. What a treat for me. Let's go back to the airport. So I am going to resist mentioning one more time how much I like Singapore, even though they have food courts in the airport, and there's so many great things about the airport, but not going to mention all of those, even though I just went to the lounge, which had the best satay chicken, which I'm also not going to mention instead, because I'm going to my gate. So again, I'm flying with Sri Lankan Airlines for the first time. Sri Lanka, if you do not know, is actually where my grandmother was born and is from, and it's come up in a few videos or whatever, and she actually lived in Colombo, the city I'm flying to. Sadly, I won't actually be able to go to Colombo. I tried to work out timing where I could, but the flight, the cheapest flight has to leave at 20 past midnight or something. So yeah, it means there was no convenient way to hook that up. And just as a side, I'll tell you a little fun fact when I get there actually, because the reason I haven't gone to Colombo and won't be staying for a while for quite some time is a funny little anecdote from my grandmother. Oh, and I guess I also want to mention the fact that it's actually gotten better in the 7 months since I last been here. There's been some changes, a few of which are security changes, and a few of which made the airport a little bit nicer, so isn't that great? In 7 months things got better. How often does that happen? Not very often, unless you're in Singapore. I have to get on a train, because there's like trains to get you to the gates faster. People movers, they're great, but the problem is they go a little bit too slow. What if we had trains taking you to your gate? That's the magic part of Singapore airport, at least. As you can see, this is one not in use, but still, pretty cool concept. Won't mention it though, because I'm not mentioning how great Singapore airport is. Won't mention how relaxed it makes you feel with the music too. None of that's being mentioned in this vlog. So yeah, this is mildly interesting to me, not only because of the fact that it's obviously my first time flying Sri Lankan Airlines, which will be an interesting experience by itself. Love trying out new airlines, but it's also going to be my first time trying out a kind of, I guess, like 2-2 products in business class. It's the setup used in domestic first class in America, and I guess in my head it's always just been like, why would anyone consider paying more for this, like, as opposed to anything else? And given that it was just like a part of the ticket, it's not like I could have downgraded to save money. I would have if it was a choice. I figure, if it's a free chance to, give this an experience, let's see if it is any good. Maybe having a little bit wider seat or whatever is going to be the magical thing that I've been missing in my life this entire time. I'm not too sure, but I guess we'll find out on the plane, which we might not be able to record, because who knows how this airline goes. Apparently that's a rule some of them have. Okay, so I've completed flight 4 now from obviously Singapore to now here in Colombo. This is the largest airport in Sri Lanka, and it's where I'm going to be spending the next few hours while I wait for the final, I guess the next big non-final flight from here to Hong Kong. And just as an interesting little story, because way back there behind the Buddha, which by the way, not meant to have your back to in any pictures, so I don't know if this video counts, but at the transfer counter, I have a little bit of a funny story because I went to the business class counter to be like, okay, can I get a transfer ticket? I'm going to Hong Kong with Cathay Pacific, and they're like, over there, sir, you know, it's the economy thing. And I was like, you sure? And they're like, definitely. And it's like, okay, then that's kind of interesting, right? So yeah, that's the first time that, you know, I mean, most airlines are pretty cool, just like, oh yeah, you can, you know, people come in different ships and sizes or whatever. Over here, it's like, nah, you gotta be over there. You're definitely not one of the, you're definitely one of those economy people. Also, there's a weird animal on me right now. So another little thing that I found interesting, besides the Buddha, which again, you're not meant to turn your back to, it's one of the big disrespectful things to do with one of those, but it is actually to do with this up here. So this is the president of Sri Lanka, and it actually says up there, the president of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, and I find that to be odd because obviously everyone knows the countries that have, you know, Republic or People's Republic or Democratic Republic, they're the countries you have to fear that aren't actually that thing. You know, social democratic social, whatever. My point being is if you're a social democrat or a democrat socialist, which are different things actually, then apparently Sri Lanka is the country for you. And again, I'll dive into more of what that is. I know there's like a whole thing with Sri Lanka that's only really been resolved recently. That isn't really. I guess it is technically kind of in the view of the people who think that you can only come up with something if you live somewhere. I guess it is my thing because I'm like a quarter Sri Lankan, and I'm going to keep bringing that up so that I can you know, use that as a leverage here. But no, I'm going to be chilling here for the next few hours. It's 10 p.m. local time until 40 past midnight now. So 20 to 1 local time, which in my time zone of Hong Kong, it's like 3 or 4. You know, basically, it's going to be a whole mess. But it is going to be of a Cathay Dragon. So I'm switching airline again. Sri Lankan was a really weird airline. You know, just to be entirely honest about it. For a few different reasons. First of all, they're the only flight attendants I've seen that have like a midriff exposed, which I know is like Sri Lankan culture or whatever. They are like pretty girls or whatever. But it's like really weird because it's like the least, you know, and anyone, like if I had my midriff exposed, it'd be concerning. And I feel like you need to be whatever. Look it up sometime, or like you can see something on this video. But my point being is it's a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure what's going on there. But first of all, yeah, the whole 2-2, like, what's up with the domestic first layout in America? I think this was nicer than that. I think they were, like, more stretched out. But I think in general, like, it's not really a huge upgrade. Like, you know, having one person next to you, better than having two. Is it worth paying any significant amount, especially if it's anywhere in the 3 or even 4 digits? I can't imagine it ever would be. But no, definitely not. So would not recommend unless it's free in some way, like it is in the US. And second of all, besides the, you know, there's the whole uniform thing, which whole separate thing again. But also, I just had the experience on that flight because of the fact that obviously it was like a 4-hour overnight flight. It was kind of a bad-ish time for a flight, especially on a narrow jet where you just got a recliner seat. But it was really weird because I actually got some good sleep, and then what happened is the flight attendant came to wake me up and was like, sorry, your seatmate needs to get out of the aisle. And it's like, oh, she wants to wake me up to get to the aisle. There's like, you know, there's a good amount of space, not that much. I can't really show you my hand, but there was like a decent amount of space. But it was like, she doesn't want to like do this climbing over you nonsense, so it'd be better if you woke up. And it's like, really, that's a thing? You can just ask me, whatever. It seemed like, you know, like it's all about balancing the needs of the passengers, not about like they'd prefer it if they could go over get over you about doing the little climb. More important than you sleeping right now on this sleeping flight for most people. I don't know why they bother me. Anyway, I'm going to be getting there. That's the Sri Lankan Airlines lounge. I'll let you know how it is, maybe. Or well, maybe I won't. Either way, I'm excited for my transfer to my last flight, which is Cathay Dragon. So it's actually Dragonair that was bought by Cathay Pacific, but now is known as Cathay Dragon because they have minorly different services and minorly different everything. So it's basically going to be kind of like the Cathay Pacific from earlier, but maybe better, maybe worse. Who knows? I don't know enough about that. Again, it's Sri Lanka as a country I really have intended to come back to sometime. But the little anecdote that I said I would tell you is that I asked my grandmother, like, okay, so you know, like, let's go to Sri Lanka. You know, like, where around Sri Lanka exactly are you from, right? I think you said Colombo, and she's like, oh yeah, it's from Colombo 8. I think she said. Maybe I said too much by saying where she was born, but she said she was from Colombo 8 or something like that, one of the zones of Sri Lanka. And I was like, oh, why have you never gone back? You know, should I go? What do you recommend? And she's like, I haven't gone back because there's too many snakes. 100% seriously. And I'm like, well, really? She's like, yeah, there's too many snakes. And it's like, you know, something about going to a big city, you know, there's a few different issues going on there too. But the snakes thing, that throws me off. I'm not a snake guy. So I don't know if it was a joke or not. Maybe you could enlighten me, and maybe I should have less fear of snakes or something. But that's me. I fear snakes a bit too much, apparently. So I've landed, and flight 5 hours 6 is complete. Now all I have left is the very biggest one. It's something like 13 hours to London, and it's happening sometime soon. I don't actually know the date, which is surprising, but we'll get into that later. Maybe we won't, maybe we will, but going to London at some point, either tomorrow, maybe today, who knows exactly. But first of all, I just wanted to quickly mention that flight was delightful. It was the longest of all the flights I've done yet, and first of all, let me show you the seat. So the seat is wonderful. Look, it's like, you know, it's got like plenty of space, it's isolated, there's no one who needs to climb over you. If, let's say, they felt uncomfortable climbing over you, they wouldn't have to wake you up, even though you're sleeping and it's a nighttime flight. That doesn't have to happen on this flight. It's a wonderful thing. So that's pretty nice. It's got plenty of storage areas, and it just felt super secluded and private, so I felt like I was in my own little place, which is, you know, that's the dream of an airline. And then on top of that, the service was amazing, of course. Even though like most people would just go and sleep for the night, she came over and I was like, probably not going to eat, maybe just the appetizer. Let me show you the appetizer, by the way. Looked pretty good. Maybe I'm not showing it to you, but something up here probably. So the appetizer is really good, and then she came over and she's like, oh yeah, so you know, like, do you want a drink with that and maybe a main? And I was like, I guess so. And then she was so sad because I asked for the Hong Kong milk tea. I wanted a Hong Kong milk tea before I went to bed, and she was like, oh, the Sitwell sign just came on, we can't serve the drinks this hot while they're obviously while the turbulence is going on. And it's like, oh well, if you're going to sleep, then I'll make sure you get it before landing or something. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. I'll wake up early for this. And then she was just so happy that she could get it to me in the morning, like, yeah, I got you milk tea finally. And that's good. Like, she was both hyped to fit, you know, like, I guess maybe she like maybe what it is like on that airline they can tell the people who are doing it like leisurely versus businessly, but she was like excited for me, it seemed, and that's all I want in the world. Like, I'm excited to do this. I'm kind of depressed, like I don't get to experience it because I'm busy sleeping, but you know, she turned it into an enjoyable thing, and two thumbs up to basically what I'm saying right here. Really big fan of Cathay Pacific, mostly just because of the service you seem to get. Anyway, I'm here in Hong Kong International Airport, Terminal 1, or the only real terminal that has flights right now, and I'm gonna go actually shower here because, funnily enough, so again, I might be coming back here in 4 hours, I might be coming back here tomorrow, who I don't actually know precisely right now, but the shower at my place, where Jeremy is right now, is super gross. It's like moldy, you know, we're staying in a place that's fairly cheap and also central, and because, oh, not even fairly cheap, just as cheap as we could reasonably find, and because of that, the shower sucks, and it makes me feel like I would be less clean if I showered there. So my goal is to only shower at the airport by showering. I showered yesterday, I'm going to shower today, and I'm going to shower tomorrow. So, by the way, in case you want to see my journey, here's what it looks like on screen. It's taken exactly 24 hours. This time, 24 hours ago, is when I got on the first flight, and it feels super weird to be right back here. Like, how often do you spend a day flying and end up in the same place? And I guess the answer is not often. But also, I did something like 10,000 kilometers, so that's going to add to the radiation counter. But the real reason that one of the big reasons that I wanted to do it this way, as well as just being able to save so much money, only one way. But you might say, well, obviously you could have taken like two one ways somewhere, you could have done some weird one-stop connection or something, but even then, if you're trying to fly one way to Europe, it's very expensive, even if you consider like a stop, even if you want to fly with whatever airline that you might not be too familiar with, it's still going to be expensive because you usually have to do these things in returns, and doing them this close to the time, super expensive. So my options were basically takes like 2 or 3 stops in economy, and you know, it take like a solid 18-24 hours, do them a little bit uncomfortably, or do the same thing but do a little bit longer, 36 I believe is the total travel time, and do it in business. So it's basically, you know, like maybe let's say 18, 20, 24, whatever you want to say, depending on where the stops would be, you know, in, let's call it discomfort, or let's just call it regular, or in extreme comfort, you know, by doing it this way. So why would I choose to do the much longer way if it's for the same price, right? And honestly, the first answer to that question is I think I do prefer 36 hours of comfort over 20 hours of, you know, not that, because, you know, those 16 hours, you know, like, there's a big difference between how you're going to arrive after all of that, you know, feeling nice and being well fed and how, you know, being able to sleep and stuff. So I think there's a big difference personally, but even if you don't care about that, there's still one big equalizer, and that is the way that loyalty programs work with airlines. So loyalty programs, as far as like, again, on an economy fare, you're going to get something like, you know, like a 10 in points every single time that you fly with any airline on any fairly significant distance, and that's going to be nice. And you'll also get some amount of tier points that will eventually add up to something. However, because airlines know that business class is where the flexible people are that might be swayed by their programs, this is where they offer the most stuff. So for instance, I use BA Avios, as I mentioned, to buy that one way, in the first class video, and because I can credit the points that are on these flights, because they're One World members, onto that, every single one of these flights has given me between 3,000 and 10,000 Avios, as well as some tier points. So those tier points are eventually going to give me higher status, which eventually works into either both one, more Avios, and two, into upgrades and lounges and just lots of cool benefits of airlines. But the second benefit is I'm literally getting some amount of cash back on every single flight. I believe I worked out the total Avios for this journey with the class that I actually have is something like 35,000. So most people would value that at about $350 or £350, whatever you want to say, about a penny per point. However, as you've seen from the first class video, I can get upwards of 5 or 10p per point in the best situations of that 2-1 voucher. But even without it, if you're using it for first class or business class, or using them for the very best, highest quality redemptions, it's basically like, wait, so I can potentially get thousands of value out of a ticket that costs significantly less than that, and that's half the fun of this. It's effectively on the one hand, it's just either being paid to go around 24 hours. On the other hand, it's being paid a significant amount more than the flights, even if you can equalize the value there. So that's kind of cool in my opinion. That's just something I figured I'd mention that I'm doing. That it's one of the big benefits of going this way. And again, just besides making sense on being a better option financially than all the other ones, it also is going to be quite nice. And also, it means I get to have this fun kind of vlogging experience, doing something I've never done before. I got to see 4 countries in Asia, but literally an hour each, or in Singapore a little bit more than that. I got to see a few countries, get a little sample pack, if you will. And although there were some issues along the way, there was some weird. Again, I can't quite get over that woman who was, she was 20-something. She was by herself. I don't, there's a few suspicious reasons that could be. Think about it in your head. I can't quite get over that one, but besides that, it's been a delightful time, and it's been get a lot of fun. Potentially turn it into a lot of save money or whatever. Big bonus in my opinion. So anyway, I'm going to go to the Arrivals Lounge now, which is a thing you can do if you fly business. Again, nice little thing. And I'm going to actually shower because I want to do it at the airport and not at the hotel, because the hotel is super gross. Again, you're gotta make compromises somewhere, and this is the one I've chosen. Oh, I thought that was a lounge here, but it's Hang's delicacies, which is some form of a lounge, but it doesn't have a shower, one assumes. As a pro little tip here for you, fun fact, I guess, most airlines will, especially most airlines in Europe or America, if you want to have a stop that's more than 24 hours, they're not a big fan of that. They know that they can charge you more because you're effectively seeing another destination on your trip. However, if you fly certain airlines, like ones that want to get you into the country, that want you to see their country for an extra 24 hours, the stopover is free, or a nominal charge. It was literally £5 or £7 extra for me to get a flight that's an extra day, so I get to see Hong Kong 24 hours. £5 to see the city 24 hours. I'll take that. So, just in case you're curious about where I'm staying in Hong Kong, because there's a small lesson to be learned from this one, I think. In most cities, the center is where you want to be. You want to be as close to the action as possible. I know this is different from place to place, country to country, but in Hong Kong, the center is known as Kowloon. Kowloon is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. In something like 49 square kilometers, there's over 2 million people. The density is insane when you start to think about that one. It's crazy how packed this is. When you look around, it's just tall buildings everywhere and everywhere. However, it also has the downside of when you have a place that forms semi-naturally from slums and stuff, you get a little bit of I don't know what the word is, but a worrying vibe, I guess. And when you look at stuff like, it's a house that might have burned down at some point, or been on fire at some point, and then it looks like it just kind of came back from that, and they figured, house isn't on fire anymore, I guess it's fine to live in. And you look around and it's just like, ooh, this is, it feels dangerous. I'm sure it's not though, the crime rate is mostly down in Hong Kong. However, if you're going to stay somewhere in Hong Kong, the pro tip I've learned, we were in Central earlier, where things are nice and beautiful views and stuff, and then you come here and you don't really have any view, and you don't really have any feeling of safety. Right now I'm looking around everywhere, and so is Jeremy. So anyway, with that said, I'm sure it's all fine. Kowloon's an interesting place to visit, but unlike most cities, you want to visit the center, you don't want to be there for a bunch of reasons. Anyway, that said, let's go back. So I had a good last day in Hong Kong, but now I'm back here at the airport with a few hours to go until the big kind of like finale of the flight. So this last flight is a 13-hour flight from Hong Kong direct to London, and it's one of the busiest business routes in the world. And as a result of that, it's one of the most expensive business routes in the world. If you want to fly, especially with Cathay Pacific, but any major airline on this route, you're going to have to, pay a significant amount because business travelers, like the ones going from Hong Kong to London, are not particularly price sensitive. If you charge them 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, what does it matter to them? The company is paying regardless, right? So as a result of that, tickets can get absurdly expensive, and it's kind of cool that, like, because of this weird routing, this is like the big payoff, the big thing. I'm going to have a significant upgrade, 13 hours of comfort, maybe 13 hours of good food. There's free drinks, there's free everything. It's going to be a wonderful time, and I might even get some sleeping. Who knows? I'm kind of excited for this one. I like flying a lot, as I said before, and it's kind of cool. Not only that I'm going to have that, and the kind of few hours before it, I can chill out in one of the Cathay Pacific lounges, which are kind of nice. But also, this airport is wonderful as a whole because from anywhere in the terminal, as you can see back there, I'm like an anonymous character that I have to hide my identity. If you look back there, you can see there's some amazing views of planes and whatever else. And if you care in the slice about that, I don't know what people call themselves, like plane spotters, aviation geeks, whatever you want to call yourself. If you're into that stuff, this airport is amazing. But wait, see back there? There's a United plane back there. But yeah, you can see a lot of stuff going on here, and it's kind of cool in my opinion that there's so much of a view that just here everywhere. Cool airport, Hong Kong airport. Big fan of good airports, and Hong Kong makes the list for good ones. Anyway, I'm gonna go chill out in one of there's like 4 Cathay Pacific lounges, and then we're gonna see how this 13-hour monstrosity of a flight goes. So a quick little fun fact is the fact that Hong Kong Airport is actually the world's largest cargo airport. They deliver the most cargo from place to place, but they're also one of the largest passenger terminals as well. They're huge airport, and as a result of that, they actually have their own metro system to get from part of the airport to the other part, because it's just that big. So let's get on the metro now, shall we? How many airports do you know of metros? I mean, probably a fair few, but still, it's a metro, but we're in an airport. What's up with that? It's also worth mentioning it's like super weird down here in the metro. I don't know why I'm in this carriage by myself. Maybe they're going to take me somewhere and murder me, but yeah, underneath the airport in a metro. Who would have figured it? Not me, that's for sure. Anyway, this is my stop, gate 1 to 503. Let's go. So I'm actually at the Qantas Lounge in Hong Kong Airport right now. It's an Australian carrier, but because they're in the same alliance as Cathay Pacific, it works. Basically, I can be in here. And I really like this lounge because it's clearly meant for people flying on Australian flights, but it's huge and mostly empty, which is, I think that's kind of cool. So, mostly empty lounge. Got some iced Hong Kong milk tea, some noodles, doing some uploading and some downloading because the internet at the airport's the best. And I don't know, I just wanted to mention that, like, literally anywhere in the airport, you're going to get this amazing view off the runway. I liked it a lot. And also, another quick pro tip, if you ever do come through here, the free Wi-Fi is better than any Wi-Fi at any lounge or any point in the terminal. Just connect to it, and it's I kind of like that. Like, the free Wi-Fi is the best Wi-Fi, so make sure you give that a whirl, especially if you're doing like 4 gig downloads and uploads and stuff like that. So I drank about 2 litres of water before getting on this plane, and as a result, I'm going to be hydrated, but I guess also there's downsides to that as well. I just want to quickly mention that the bathroom here, it's like the first bathroom I've seen that's like actually real size. I can walk backwards and forward. Isn't that crazy? There's 2 mirrors. It's a whole thing. Anyway, super nice seat. I'm gonna go sit down and. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be an amazing flight. And just as a quick little aside, because I ran out of clean t-shirts during this trip, literally, 1 day ago, and I was like, I need something for the plane. Don't want to feel, bad or sweaty or whatever. So I bought the cheapest t-shirt I could find at one of the markets in Hong Kong where they just sell random garbage, and I got this one for 29 Hong Kong dollars. So it's very weird to be wearing this, but that's what we're doing instead. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. Just as a small thing that was pointed out to me just before I got here, they actually have a locker just for shoes down there. Wait, can you even see it? There's a locker down there for your shoes. That's a nice little touch in my opinion. But yeah, I really want to avoid the whole thing of before where it drank a little bit and like just a little bit slowly over like the 24-hour flight, and then by the end it was wrecked. So I think water plus like avoid that till the very end, and then we'll be wonderful. Because trying things out is good, but trying things out and then having like a week be destroyed by it on the New Zealand flight is bad. Would not recommend. So let's see if we can also adjust myself back to London time for video stuff. So sadly, like all good things, my time in Asia has come to an end. I'm now back at home in the UK, in my office to be precise, and I figured let's talk about that 12-ish hour flight I just did. It was scheduled for 13 hours, ended up being 12 hours of actual flight time, so we took off at 3 something PM Hong Kong time, landed in the UK for 8 PM. That is the craziest thing to really wrap my head around, because, you know, the miracle of flying is something that people really stop appreciating after a certain amount, but that I really appreciate every time. The fact that, you know, like, there are great services, and that's what my whole flight was all about, but the fact that you can go from, you know, like living half a day in Hong Kong and then live a little bit of your day in the UK, that is an insane thing that's only possible in our time, and it's just something I really wanted to go, wow, yeah, that's crazy. The fact that you can go from one side of the world to the other so fast, that's the miracle, and that's something everyone needs to, you know, stress themselves. Like, people say, like, oh, economy sucks so bad, but it's like, no, economy doesn't suck so bad. My favorite airline is Norwegian because they allow you to go, you know, thousands of miles to another continent for less than a couple $100s, and that is the miracle. That is what this is all about, and I want to stress that before anything else, that was amazing. However, I do want to talk specifically about the Cathay Pacific business class, because I'd heard some great things about it before this, and I would go as far as to say it's underrated by people who say it's great. It is amazing. It is one of the world's best airlines for a reason. So first of all, it was a huge business class cabin. It was something like, you know, like 12 rows of 4 seats in each row, despite being a fairly small plane, a 777. So like half the cabin space was just first and business, and then the rest was the rest, which is something I haven't really seen in other airlines. And as far as like what was it like, amazing. It is the food was amazing. They brought it all out on a little tray, so you could see the 3 options before you picked one. Unlike most menus, they're like, it's the seasoned, succulent, grain-fed Japanese pork. And it's like, you just said pork, but with 7 words. They actually let you seal the options, and it made me, you know, change my mind a few times. So that's amazing. That's 10 out of 10, wonderful stuff. Drink service is amazing. They've got like loads of great non-alcoholic cocktails, or like a signature one. I really like that, as someone who's tried the getting drunk route before and has been horrifically wrecked by it. This flight was much better by the fact that I just got through, made stuff happen. The bed experience was wonderful. It's one of the most comfortable napping experiences. The seat, again, because it turns into the bed, it's amazing. It's facing the window, so you get to look at the view the whole time. Like I said, the whole amazing thing about flying is the fact that you can see, like, we're going all the way around the world like this, and I love that, you know, you actually stare at the window with this. I think it's called reverse herringbone. So great seat, great service, great food, great drinks, great everything you could want on a flight. And although I think the reality is the premium for business is never going to be accessible to everyone. There's a reason economy fares are the vast majority of things booked, and there's a reason that's the vast majority of the flying I do, and that you do, and that the world does, because, you know, the miracle is the fact that it gets you there. However, if you want to try out something weird and quirky and a nice upgrade once or twice, Cathay Pacific is easily one of the best airlines. And I would go as far as to say, I flew first class of British Airways, you know, there was the whole Avios thing, a week and a half ago. Maybe you saw that video. I would go as far, it's known as like the world's best business class, right? That's British Airways first. However, I would go as far as to say British Airways first class is the world's like 4th or 5th best business class, because I love Cathay Pacific's business so much more, and that really actually kind of, interesting enough, proves my point from that video. The reason that first class is going away is that so many business classes are just as good, if not better, and in that case, it totally was. Like, I can't think of a single thing that was significantly better on the British Airways first class than it was on the Cathay Pacific. Everything was wonderful there. The staff were listening, attentive. They got, you know, when I asked for a drink, they'd bring back the drink, not the opposite. There was a lot of really nice things that I really liked about Cathay Pacific, and there are a lot of things I didn't like about the British Airways first. And again, it's just kind of interesting to me that the flight I just did proves my video, because it was amazing. If there was some opportunity to see something like that again, I totally would, because the Avios are now rolling in, and I now almost have enough to do some crazy long haul thing again. So in a few months, once I collect a few more, I'll be able to go to, like, you know, some weird far off destination, try another airline maybe sometime, try another first class, who knows for sure. I love this experience so much. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. This was the weirdest way of getting home, but it was one of the most fun ways, and again, I have no regrets, and hopefully you don't have any regrets about watching this video. If you do, it's a bit late, so your fault, not mine. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the second channel. Don't care. Goodbye.